Go ahead. Did you start it?
Yep.
All right. Live. Oh, gotta turn that off. Okay, keep forgetting that. We're running 2 cameras. Did you lock the door?
I
To the bunker?
I probably should have.
Yeah.
We have a 3-year-old that's
May invade our live feed, but
wanting
that's
to go to
okay.
bed.
All right. So we see we got some people online. Thank you, Alan. Yes, it is my birthday. I'm very blessed. And I'm doing what I want to do on my birthday, which is be with my family and do jiu-jitsu. So consider you guys my extended family. So and I just, I can't thank you guys enough, for the support that we've gotten from the community, and realize that this was 2 weeks ago today that we pulled the trigger and canceled classes because we knew the threat was real, and obviously the governor made it mandatory not too long after that. But who knows how long this is going to be. We initially said 2 weeks. Well, it's been 2 weeks. We've learned a lot. What we've learned is that this threat is very real, and we have no idea how long it's going to take. We're just trying to get creative as business owners to survive it, and I know a lot of people out there are as well. And I want our students to know, like, we appreciate the support, and we're doing our best to bring value to you from home as best we can. But I realize it's going to be difficult for a lot of folks, and some people have already lost their jobs. So while we appreciate the support, if it's affecting you negatively, please let us know. We don't want you to have to make that sacrifice. We're very blessed. We have a great student body and just an amazing culture, and we're just overwhelmed by the level of support that we've gotten through this. And we want to be able to do the same for others. And of course, we want to survive it too. But we're just, just thankful. I guess I'll start the message out with that. Don't know how long this is going to last, but we'll get through it. We're going to get through it. And if you guys have any ideas, anything specific that we can do, we were talking about maybe even doing some like, even if it's 15, 20, 30-minute live, FaceTime, sessions where it's just private lessons with you folks. Zoom is another option that we've been looking into. I think it works really, really well. I've used that as a basic conference software with Maurice in the past, and it's worked really well. We can even record those lessons if we want, but maybe even a time where we can do one together where everybody can kind of see each other's faces, because right now you're just stuck looking at me and this lovely lady. Thank you, Betty. Thanks, Lindsay. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Natalie.
Do we want to start answering some questions?
Yeah, what kind of questions we got?
I've got
Let's get
Jeff.
to it.
Jeff would like, he says, hello and happy birthday.
Oh, thanks, Jeff.
Any tips on finishing the triangle for those with hip flexibility issues?
So, a lot of it depends on a lot of it, some of that would have to be personal. I'd almost have to see kind of like what your limitation is. But I think I can help. I think the most important part, actually I'll have you do it, since I'm the bigger person, and you have shorter legs. Sometimes the thing with the hip mobility, a lot of times what you'll see is a lot of folks when they teach the triangle, they say here, come here, cut this angle, and sometimes that can be difficult, right? I don't always cut that angle like that. I do it with my body, my hips, but I have a little bit more mobility. So if you struggle with the mobility, don't focus so much on twisting the hips as much as making sure, spin this direction, making sure that you get the head down, arm across, but don't worry so much about getting all the way over here. I think this is probably going to be the limitation for a lot of people, is getting this leg directly across the back of the neck, okay? And if you can get it close, this is the most important part, is getting that connection right there. If you can bring this leg up, even if this is back, as long as you see, she doesn't have a figure 4 here. Okay, I'm looking at the camera, it's a little bit of a lag. Keep your toes up. So as long as you keep your toes up and you have that good connection, all you need to do is pull your heels down and away. So that's it. There you go. And of course, pulling on the head is going to be helpful too. So not everybody can get the figure 4. for the choke, but it doesn't mean that you can't have a good triangle. You can definitely have a good triangle. And the other thing to think about is that the triangle itself is not just a chokehold. It's a position all into itself. So there's so many things we can do in the triangle position. We can arm lock here. We can wrist lock. We can shoulder lock. If they wrap like this, we can come here. Okay, you can do this nasty, mean little thrust choke here, like this. You can strike. You can defend. There's so many things. You can sweep. You name it. Like there's so many things you can do from that position because you're not limited to just the choke. So I would say practice as many of those variations and options that work with the limitations of your body, but you're going to be able to find something there. Look at it as a guard with one arm in, one arm out. There's a lot of things you can do. You don't have to just stick with the choke itself. You can have a lot of threats from that position, including the striking. So, all right. Let's see, what else? Any other questions? What do we got going on here? Thanks for the question, Jeff.
Steven wants to know, do you guys still practice the original Jiu-Jitsu moves such as hip throws and some strikes, or did you create a whole new set of self-defense techniques?
So, thanks for the question, Steve. Yes, we teach, there are quite a few striking techniques that we do teach, and mostly from the defensive aspect in our fundamentals. We get into some of the more complex situations like there are specific types of strikes that we teach in Jiu-Jitsu that you really won't see in other arts, right? One in particular is like the heel strike from the guard position. So we definitely teach all of those techniques, and the self-defense curriculum I think that you're talking about is something that Helson is extremely adamant about. That we teach our students. So what we do at our academy is we have, the Gracie Combatives actually was very, very influential in how they structured their classes, and so I liked that a lot. I picked a lot up from that, and we kind of, there's certain things that I liked about it. There's certain things I didn't. I liked more than I didn't, and there's certain things that Helson requires at certain belt levels that they may not have, and that's okay, right? It's okay to have some variations there. But a lot of our students, have the Gracie University and stuff like that. And those guys are awesome. But what we look for from white to blue belt is basically what Helson has always been adamant about is blue belt is street ready, meaning that if you get to a blue belt, you understand the most basic types of aggressions and attacks in a street fight, and you can handle that against 95% of the population. You're always going to have that 1 or 2 percentile or that super athlete that's going to take a lot more technical ability and physical ability to deal with. But the vast majority of people you're going to be able to deal with in a self-defense situation. For purple belt, he would always say like blue belt street ready, purple belt tournament ready. Now what he means is that the biggest focus at the beginning is how does this stuff work in self-defense, the most common types of attacks. You have the rest of your career really to focus on how to beat Jiu-Jitsu with Jiu-Jitsu. That's what's really fun about it. So we do still introduce a lot of those techniques. We still want the blue belt to be able to spar at a blue belt level, be able to spar with another blue belt and be able to tap them out. So I think that's important. It's not just all self-defense. I shouldn't say that. It is actually. But what you're doing in the Jiu-Jitsu versus Jiu-Jitsu manner is you're helping develop those skills and that tenacity and that ability to survive the attacks and then, understand how a fight changes and is dynamic. So I think all of it is important. And yes, we teach the hip throws and all that stuff, even in our fundamentals curriculum. So thanks for the question. Yeah, that's really important to us. To me, it's Jiu-Jitsu is and always will be first and foremost self-defense. So that's the first thing we focus on right at the beginning is how do you defend yourself against the most common types of aggressions in self-defense.
We have one more over here, and I think you have a question over there. Any recommendations for takedowns other than the double leg?
Well, there's a lot. I'm as far as I guess I should add. The takedowns that I am most comfortable with are really the ones from the self-defense perspective. So from the clinch position, I'm a huge fan of the clinch. And and we have a really fantastic, one of our black belts is a really fantastic takedown instructor. He's a coach here in the city, wrestling coach, and he, a lot of the stuff that he teaches is from that situation too. Even from a competitive standpoint, is getting to a clinch position. So we really, really like, me personally, I like those because they're a lot more upright. They're closer to the, I don't know if we'll still be in the frame here if we stood up, but maybe.
We'll see.
We're gonna see. All right, but if we can demonstrate from here, we'll probably have our heads cut off here, but that's okay. So we'll get the idea. But you see from here, if she wraps me up, let's bend our knees a little bit, okay? Yeah, we're kind of out of the frame, that's all right. But you can see that she's up here. It's much more difficult for me to strike her with any good effectiveness, right? If she's down low, like on a double leg, now you're in danger of some of these strikes that you're in range and sometimes getting stuck underneath somebody who's much bigger and stronger than you. So the double leg is a fantastic takedown. I do think it changes quite a bit from just a wrestling perspective compared to self-defense, right? Because the distance is different. But I'm a big fan of the clinch work, from just double unders and getting the clinch. The rear position, rear control, anything from the clinch I like that keeps me safe because my head and my body are up tighter and closer. So even if we fall, even if something gets messed up and I lose my balance and I mess up a takedown, whatever, or they just have a better balance and base than me, and we end up falling, at least I'm in closer proximity to get into a good guard position and defend myself. So I hope that makes sense, as opposed to maybe making a bad shot, getting sprawled on and being stuck down the bottom. So I hope that makes sense. I like the double leg the best when I get my opponent moving backwards. So you're a much more conservative person. You get them to flinch a little bit. If they're back on their heels, I think that's the best time to hit the double leg for self-defense. As far as competition goes, I've got I've got a few techniques, a few takedowns that I like and have worked for me. I'm pretty basic. We could adjust the cameras real quick and I could go over one. You know what the heck? I'll do one. I'm gonna go over one. We'll call it the arm drag. So let's see if we can adjust our cameras here real quick.
You need me to stand up?
Yep. Okay, so you might still see my head, you may not. We'll see. We're gonna move this, oops, wrong way. Okay. Good. I think we're almost gonna have to readjust. I'm too tall for this. Okay, so I'm gonna bend my knees a little bit. Okay, so this is probably the one I've hit the most. I don't really, for the first part of my competitive career, I pulled guard a lot, even when it was a negative advantage. But the more I got comfortable, the more I realized, and the better I got. I wanted to be on top more. Okay, so one of my favorite techniques is the arm drag. Okay, I like it because there's a lot of self-defense application to it as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip this grip here, and now I'm going to pass it here like this. And when I go to pass it, widen your feet a little bit for me. Okay. When I go to pass it here and I go to pull, they're going to retract too. And when they do that, it kind of puts them on their heels. I step this leg in, and we come here. So I'm really committed, and I thread that leg on the inside. You'll notice, let's start from here. So I get the grip here, I pass it. Let's have you step your foot forward a little bit more. Here. Okay, I'm going to take this leg. I'm not stopping behind her foot. I pull it all the way through. Okay, my knee goes to the floor. This arm eventually is going to come to this side because I don't want to be stuck here. And now it's a raise. She's going to take my back. Okay, so for me, competitively, that's probably the takedown I've done the most. So let's answer another question here in a second. I'm going to readjust the cameras. Sorry, we really should have
While you're adjusting, I'm going to read David's question. He said, what are some things that you think shouldn't or wouldn't work that actually do work? A submission, sweep, reversal, etc. It moved on me. Hang on. Hang on. Also, what are some dick moves that you don't do to people you like? Same with people you like.
Well, which one do I answer first? What are some things you think shouldn't, or wouldn't work that actually work? Submission, sweep, reversal. Well, the thing that comes to my mind really is, I think this answer is probably answered much differently between a lot of different people. Can I just stand up? So, and she knew this was going to happen. She even said it last night when we were training. Like, I'm here, she's on her heels like this.
It's all coming, that guy.
Yes. You're ruining my video. All right, stand up. All right, so if they're kind of sitting back on their heels, meaning they're leaning over, and a lot of times they're going to be, this is super simple. Let's turn this way just a little bit, okay? I just hook inside, I'm pulling my feet towards me, I just push the knees. That's it. As silly as that is, it shouldn't work, but it does. So if the other thing that I'll do all the time is when you're come down to, like, some people call this combat base, where they're, yes, like this, where I'm pulling in like this. She doesn't want to come into my guard. She's got this foot here. It's just a push like that. Easiest sweep in the world, right? But a lot of people don't go for it because they're so focused on what they want, right? And that's a great metaphor for jiu-jitsu, really, is take what's given, not what you want, right? So hope that makes sense. As far as dick moves that you do to people you like, what are some dick moves? What? So, same with people who don't. I hope I understand the question correctly, but I don't ever do anything that's going to bother me. The screen's crooked. We're going to fix that. Okay. Now on YouTube. YouTube's good. I'll move this up a little bit. I think my head was cut off. So, how am I doing over here? We good? Is my head cut off?
I think, no, you're fine. You're good.
All right. So I'll give you an example of one that people think is a dick move, but it's not. Is just this. Put in the card, please. She's so happy you asked this question. Okay? When somebody tries to sit up, right? They'll come up to one hand. Sometimes they'll put both hands up, which I never suggest. Put your arms behind you like this. This is not a good idea for you when you're in her position, but I see it all the time. Okay? But just this. All right? This looks mean, but it's not. I'm not hurting you, am I? Good. You're hurting yourself, right? So I'm not squeezing her trachea or anything like that. I'm just blocking her, right? Same with the, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but the muscle pop, right? The knead the bread, okay? Some people will do it just to get the guard open, right? And some people look at that very unfavorably. I don't understand why. I don't get it. Like, I don't know. I mean, to me, the thing is that we have to define what does that mean. What does dick move, right? Like, I hope none of my kid students are watching. You could have come up with a different way of explaining that, David. But anyway, I hope Wyatt's not watching. So let's say jerk move, right? How do you define a jerk move? Well, to me, it's when you don't give me the opportunity. We're training. I slap hands, we bump fists, we're training now, okay? I'm offering my body to you to practice this very deadly art. For me, myself, you are allowed to do anything that you want to me, anything. As long as I have the opportunity to tap, right? So if we agree beforehand, we're just gonna spar with the strikes. Okay, well, if you throw in a strike and I don't have the opportunity to defend myself because I wasn't, all right, well, now I'm going to be a little upset, right? Because that wasn't the agreement, okay? Now, we put the gloves on, or we just say, hey, let's go open hand. Okay, all right, well, now we're a little bit more understandable. If an accident happens, it happens. It's going to happen. It's training. So I think the thing once you kind of agree on a sort of a training platform, you kind of have to stick within those rules. Anything that goes beyond that would be considered a jerk move, right? Some people perceive different things differently. Like, they don't like this being shoved in their throat. Well, sometimes all you have to do is just let go, right? Or you tap. So that's my general rule. I don't think it's a jerk move as long as you give me the time to tap, to submit. if you do something, doesn't matter what it is, it could be a straight arm lock. You don't give me time to tap. Okay, well, that's my job is to tap when it's the right time. Okay, when you've caught it. But if you throw into too fast where I don't have the opportunity to tap or even verbally tap, well, now we have a problem, right? Now you messed up. So that's kind of where I don't really see any move as a jerk move or this and that unless it goes beyond the parameters of what we've agreed upon, right? If that makes sense. So for me, I tell my students all the time. Now I have certain guidelines and certain limitations that we have just for safety, right? At each belt level, we don't want people doing neck cranks on a daily basis, right? We don't want them doing twisting leg locks if they have no understanding of how to deal with them on either end. We want them to be educated first, right? So that's why we don't allow anybody to spar right away because they don't know what they're doing and they're at much more risk of getting injured. So once the knowledge comes in, right? Once you get a good base of knowledge, well, I'm a black belt now, right? So I should be able to defend a knee bar, a twisting, a heel hook and a gi, whatever, right? You give me time to tap, I'm all good, right? So to me, that's the way I kind of view it. I don't really see anything as a jerk move or this and that. It comes down to how we're training, right? And if we can do it safely. So, all right. Let me take a look here. What do we got? But thanks for the question. Hope that helped. That little jerk is still sleeping. Glad to hear that.
Do you think being super aggressive is necessary to advance to blue belt? It seems that a lot of blue belts I know use a lot more aggression compared to technique.
So thank you for the question. That was from...
I'm going to butcher it. Takaro man?
Gotcha.
91.
Takaro. Do you think it's being super aggressive is super necessary to advance to blue belt? Sorry, I'm repeating the question she just asked me. I just want to make sure I'm getting it. It seems like a lot of blue belts I know are a lot more aggressive compared to technique. No, I do not believe. Well, I guess first we have to define again what does it mean by being aggressive, right? Being direct is probably what most people are viewing as aggressive. They have an intention and they want to do this thing. They're very direct with their movement. Eventually, I think people get confused when it comes to aggression or aggressiveness and directness, right? I can be direct and I can be have a conviction with what I want to do without being necessarily aggressive, if that makes some sense. I don't think, I think for a lot of folks, I think once they get to a certain point of capability, they want to increase that level of capability, and they judge that by tapping other people out. So at blue belt, there's still a lot of physicality going into the submission, into the finish, or the guard pass, or what have you. And I think that's probably what you're talking about. Is it necessary? No, not in that sense, right? You can have a very, very, when I first started training, I didn't have the capability of being the aggressor, let's say, or having the dominant positions all the time. So I had to learn survival first. Once my survival capability got better, the person who was going more direct and they started expending more energy. And now I started playing good jiu-jitsu because now, even though I wasn't in a dominant position, I was defending and expending less energy in the defense than they were in the offense. And that's the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu that you're looking for. So at some point, they make a mistake becoming too aggressive, then you're going to capitalize on that. So I think it's more important at the earlier belts to focus on survivability and energy efficiency, and eventually the effectiveness will come. And so sometimes there's always that fine balance of figuring out. Sometimes in order to expend less energy, you kind of have to expend more energy to learn how to expend less energy, if that makes sense. So I hope that successfully answered your question. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Favorite clinch technique? Headbutt. I like the hip throw as well. I don't want to change the cameras.
Yeah, you said you don't have to
All right.
adjust the cameras again.
Yes, but no, I actually, I like, some of it depends. Up against the wall, I like, shoulder strikes, elbow strikes, and knees. So from the clinch position, those are the techniques I like a lot. That may surprise some folks, but yes, we do have striking in jiu-jitsu, right? It's all part of it. So, favorite way to break open the legs, way to open up the legs in the closed guard. Okay, so my favorite way, always it changes. It's constantly in motion. So my favorite way now is to do nothing. That's it. My favorite way of breaking the guard is to keep myself safe, is to keep my posture. There was a certain period of time, early black belt, where I had a couple of fantastic influences, one from here on Gracie and the other from Hickson, okay? And they both really kind of changed. One was a technical one and the other one was a philosophical one. And they really changed how I approach the closed guard, and it really it was transformative for my jiu-jitsu. It really was. It made a huge difference. You can ask my training partners, like, it was a big deal. Like, probably the biggest change in 10 years. It was a profound difference. And so the first thing was just having a proper posture. And it's one of those, it's very difficult to learn this from video, because you can't quite see necessarily what's going on. You'll hear Hickson talk about invisible jiu-jitsu. Well, there's a little bit of that too. It's just so difficult for you to see it, but you can feel it. You have a better chance of feeling it. The only way I can describe it here is that right now, if my posture is like it used to be, which is what we consider good posture in the guard, was just sitting up straight, right? Just like this, and you got your kickstand here. Okay. The problem with that is that your spine is shaped. It's got an S curve to it. Okay. So where you're weakest, as far as this pull is concerned, is up here in this cervical region and down here in the lumbar region. Because let's say here's the hips, the S in the spine starts to bend in. So this is the lumbar region. This is right where they start to pull. So when she starts to pull with her legs like this, I start falling forward one vertebrae at a time. And now what am I relying on? My arms. And that's what she wants. She wants me to fight her legs with my arms. I don't want to do that. So what I do is I change the curvature of my spine here, and I connect my spine to her legs. So now when she goes to pull in, now eventually keep pulling. Come on, you can do it. You can do a sit-up. Come on, do a sit-up.
Oh, I would love to sit up
You
and
can do it. Oh, you can't use your arms, cheater. Okay, so that allowed me the ability to just use my hands to float where they needed to be to block. Okay, so my main thing now is, okay, if I block you, I prevent you from sitting up into me. Okay, wherever the lifting point is, she sits up on this side, I block here. She sits up on this side, come up on this shoulder. Just come up on your elbow. Yes. I just block here. Remember that thing I did a little bit earlier? I can do this too. Okay, so as long as I prevent her from sitting up into me and pulling me down, at some point, and you can't pull the arm across. I don't let my arms cross like this. I keep my posture. I don't let the hips run. Okay, I've got her propped up. You don't feel comfortable here. No. Eventually, you try a few things. You can't get a deep grip. Now, right, you're tired. Now, what do you want to do?
I want to open.
Yes. Good. Go ahead. Good. Now I can pass. So that was the philosophical part. Was basically, I was working with Huron. It was basically like, look. Why do I have to pass the guard? You have to submit me, right? So if you think in that term and you block and you defend and you wait, I guarantee you, especially with blue belts and above, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, they're going to get bored and they're going to open the guard. So that's my favorite way of opening the guard. There's all sorts of ways of breaking the guard open. And eventually I will try to do that if I'm training with somebody who sort of knows and just is relaxed and waits on me. Because at some point it's almost like an unspoken thing. Like, okay, if we're gonna, at some point you just start staring at each other, right? Okay, all right, I'm on top, it's time for me to progress the position. So eventually I'll try to break the guard open. But most of the time I don't have to. So I hope that makes sense. All right, let's see what else. By the way, have you ever met Hicks and Gracie and why he considered the best? Sorry, I need the ego boost. Well, he's the best, in my opinion, yes. But why? That's a whole different long video. Let's see, triangles. You're welcome, Jeremy. What jiu-jitsu moves are based on your body types? I'm a lanky guy. Techniques what techniques should I focus on? Lanky guy? I think the closed guard is always going to be better for it's such a great position to develop because, if you are stuck on the bottom of the fight, you want to be in the guard. If you're able to be on the top, we always want to be on the top, but sometimes we're not able to do that. So I think it's very, very important for everybody, no matter what your physicality, to develop a good guard position and good escapes from the bottom. So, but you can tell, like, her body is much different than mine. So everybody that I train with at the academy at this point, right now, I can close my legs around them. But what would you say? There's a certain percentage of folks that you can't close your legs around. What percentage would you say? 20%?
I would say it's a small
30%?
percent. I mean, even you, I have to
Right, you gotta get
scooted.
So you'd say almost half of the people that you train with, you can't close your guard on them.
Probably.
So her guard is going to look different than mine, necessarily, right? So she cannot close the guard on many people, but it doesn't mean that she can't have a good guard. Okay, it just has to be different. So I think with you have longer legs, then it behooves you to really develop a good closed guard, breaking posture, high guard attacks. The high guard, I think, is one of the most dominant situations you can be in the bottom of the fight. So if you can develop that, that's what's really helped me a lot in the past, is developing that high guard. And you'll notice even in MMA fights, self-defense, you name it, the person who gets to that high guard position, they're really minimizing the striking capability of the person on the top. So let's switch back. I'm leaning over you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't see any other.
No.
Oh, there we go.
Natalie. But she's going to have a hard time closing her guard around me. We have to read that.
It's the,
for YouTube.
it's the quarantine 15.
Your friend, our friend Natalie says, by the time this quarantine is over, she's going to have a hard time closing her guard around me.
Struggle is real.
Oh, it is, yes. So stay active, folks. Like, if you got a mat, get on it. Train with your loved ones. Try to keep yourself sane.
Burn off your
If
wine
you
with the wine.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, if you're in Ohio, I know there's people who are joining us all over the world on YouTube right now, but
In Ohio,
thank you guys
that's
for
a
the
legit
questions.
thing right now.
Oh, that's all right, Stephen. Thank you. Thanks, Andre. Appreciate it. What age do you recommend kids training chokes? Okay, so I'll answer this question, and then we'll maybe cut it. Yeah, I think we're doing good. About 35 minutes in, so yeah, I don't want to go too long here. So let me answer that question. So for us, well, first of all, I guess I should ask, like, my kids or your kids, right? Because I think a lot of it is different. Like at home, I'll teach the kids very, very young and very early on things that I wouldn't teach in the normal classroom. Normal classroom, our age that we start teaching chokeholds is 9-year-olds. So we have juniors, we have 4 age groups. We have a 3 to 5-year-old group. We have a juniors one, which is 6 to 8, 9 to 11, and then 12 to 16-year-old group. All of them are fantastic, but we don't start teaching chokeholds until 9-year-olds, 9 years old and up. And then we're very cautious about how we explain them and making sure that we're teaching them with responsibility. So I think, and every kid, as we know, is going to mature at different ages and have different understanding. But we're very, very conscientious about, like, how we teach them. Right? We teach the chokes, but we also explain the science behind them, why they work, how they work, and how they can be deadly. And what the perception is. So we try to teach them to avoid using them at all costs in a schoolyard setting, because of the perception of, oh, Mom, Johnny choked me and I passed out. Like, oh, your kid tried to kill my kid. I mean, it takes on a whole different level it's just a different perception, and it's unfortunate, but that's the reality. So we make sure that we educate them as much as possible, but we start teaching them at 9 years old, and that's just how we do it for our academy. I know that it's really all over the board. Like, you got folks who are teaching them at 6 years old and younger, and sometimes allow them in competitions. So yeah, I mean, you know, for us, we don't teach them till 9, just because we teach some of the submissions earlier on, but we don't allow them to use submissions when they're sparring until they're at least yellow belt, which for us is a minimum 200 classes, which is a lot. So minimum yellow belt or 9 years old, right? So they'll learn the submissions earlier than that, but they don't use them in sparring until that age.
Jeremy would love to come visit once we're.
You are more than welcome to come and visit us anytime. Absolutely, we would love that.
Favorite triangle setup?
Oh man, let's see. I don't know that I have a favorite. I used to have a favorite. I used to have I used to have all sorts of fun ways of catching the triangle. What I do now is, you know, I've gotten pretty good at the triangle choke over the years, and so how I attack the triangle now is differently than what I did in the past. I'm also more mindful of the position as well. So I probably submitted more people in the triangle than anything, competitively for sure. You know, when I first started learning and doing triangles, I had to learn setups. I had to figure out how to catch them, how to finish them. And so in order to develop your capability with any submission, you have to learn the setup. And at first you're going to screw it up, right? You're just going to mess it up, and it's going to be a mess. And, oh man, the guy passed my guard, right? And then you start becoming better and better at being tricky about it, right? Setting it up and being more sly about it, because then it's hard for people to recognize what's going on. After a while, after getting very good at the setups and things like that, and doing a lot of drilling of the setup, doesn't matter what setup it is, it has to be effective, right? It has to be simple and detailed, and the timing has to be there. If you develop, if you repeat the moves a lot, that's the most important part at the beginning, is repeating, it's doing the repetition without the resistance, right? And then trying to apply it when you're sparring. After a while, you get good, and after a certain period of time, longer training, you know what I mean? Your body starts to just recognize when the opening is there. So I don't really shoot for the triangle anymore. I take advantage of it when it appears, when it opens. So I don't go into the closed guard and say, I'm going to get the triangle. I used to, but I don't have to anymore. What I do now is I protect my guard. I try to attack the neck. I try to do all those things that really are just I start from a very simple attack sequence, just hand on the collar and start bugging from there. Everything else depends on what they do. So if the triangle appears and opens itself up with any of the techniques and the setups that I've learned that are reflexive, I'll capture it. Now, if I see one arm in, one arm out, my body just knows how to take advantage and shoot it up there. So with that being said, I'll give you one, okay? Actually, I'll have her do it because she's going through the repetitions. This is actually, and I don't use this position that much. I have done it in the past. I actually picked this up years ago from my good friend Steve Hordinsky. And it was basically from you know the one I'm talking about, where you kind of, so you're going to move out first. You're going to thread the leg through. So you're going to go, this is going to be a lasso and butterfly. Go ahead and put the foot in. Yes. So spider guard, and then she's going to lasso on this side, okay? Now, the first thing to do is learn how to control this and kind of move back and forth, okay? And then, yes, exactly. So she's got some control. She keeps she notices my knee's not in the middle. There's an opportunity. What she's going to do, if you guys can see this grip right here, as she has this control, she's maneuvering to a certain point. She's going to switch her grip. She's going to come to the other side, and now she's going to let this leg shoot up, and now she's got it here like this, okay? So let's go back and do that one more time. So she lassos here like this. She's got a good control. She keeps this arm kind of out here like this. She's gonna real quick switch the grip from this side to this side. And now she's gonna, this leg's already underneath. This foot needs to come off the top. She's gonna shoot her hips up and pull me in at the same time. So that's a really, really good one. Just practice that movement, moving back and forth. And then as soon as you can find yourself in a position where the knee is not in the middle and it's not gonna block your hip, shoot your hips up and trap that position there. So, all right. Okay, well, I think we'll call it a day. I want to give a little shout out to my instructor. It's his birthday as well. We share a birthday. Happy birthday, Grandmaster Helson. I hope you are healthy and doing well in Brazil. Miss you. Hope you're doing great. And yeah, it's an honor to share a birthday with my teacher. And it was an honor to share my birthday with all of you today. And again, I can't thank you all enough for the love and support. And if there's anything that we can do for you, please reach out and let us know. We'd love to, any requests that you have, I'd love to throw it out there and do my best, but I really can't wait to get back on the mat and choke Dave's face, because, you know, it wouldn't be it's not a jerk move, is it? I don't know, maybe it is. I won't choke your face, I'm kidding. I will smother you though. That's the one. Maybe that's the real jerk move.
Maybe.
Yeah. I will say this. My good friend, I'll tell you this story, and then we'll end it here. My good friend Vince, love him, one of the best humans on the planet. The very first time I trained with him, I was a white belt, he was a blue belt. The very first time I knew who he was, but I didn't know much about him. He was, he was my senior in Jiu-Jitsu, and so I was training with him, and just a tough dude. But I caught his foot in something I saw in I forget the guy's name now, one of the earlier UFC champions, Russian guy. Anyway, I saw it on a magazine. It was a technique where it was like a foot lock, and the guy would pull their foot free. Let me borrow it. This is kind of mean. It's like a foot lock, but when they pull their foot free, the heel comes out, and you switch and you turn it into a heel hook like this. And so I caught that, and I was like, oh man, I think I'm gonna make this work. And he tapped. I didn't know if there were any rules or anything. I didn't back then. You know, crank the neck, you name it, right? There was no, like, you know, slam out of the guard. It was kind of rough. So he tapped, and I was like, oh, that was really cool. It worked. And then he proceeded to beat the crap out of me. So I didn't know. Somehow that really upset him. And when he mounted me, I remember, and he was better than me. I just got lucky, right? When he mounted me, you know, we had already been training for a good bit, so the gi was all nice and sweaty. And he mounted me, and he covered my face. He had no intention of choking me. He covered my face with his gi and smothered me and wouldn't let me go until I tapped. So I tapped out of suffocation. And so some people would look at that as a jerk move. Some people would look at this, you know, that heel hook from a white belt as a jerk move. I don't know. You be the judge. He's one of my best friends. So just be good to each other, and yeah, make sure you have time to tap. But there'll be plenty of time to tap if you smother them. Some people don't like that. I wouldn't do that to her, but I won't be mad at you if you do it to me. I should know how to defend it. So there you go. Am I allowed to do that? Oh, yeah, I should. Okay, I won't do it. All right, thanks guys. You're awesome. I don't know how to stop this thing. Oh, there we go. There's the finish button.